got a request. Boxing Gossip, you mentioned in the chat on one of your live shows the other day that you and a friend had recorded a video some time back saying that Wladimir Klitschko would have a chance against Mike Tyson at their peaks. How can you say that? Right, so I guess the question is Wladimir Klitschko versus Mike Tyson, who would win and why? Yeah, I did a video, funny actually, I did a video on this subject when I first started the channel, like ages ago, and I sat down with a friend and we kind of discussed it back and forth. So it was kind of like a bit old school in the sense that, yeah, it probably got 3 or 4 views when the channel had maybe 5 or 6 subscribers. So yeah, I'm happy to repost it. I'm considering reposting a few of the old videos I did, because I did so many hours of videos on these kind of fantasy matchups and those sort of things that got about, you know, some of them got like 10 views. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe worth reposting a few now, because they're topics that people always ask me about and are interested in seeing. You know, but I can't be bothered to do another video when I've already done one previously. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if it's a good idea to repost some of the old stuff, or let me know if it's a bad idea. Please do comment below. I'm open to feedback on that. But without further ado, Vintage Boxing Gossip, me and a friend talking Wladimir Klitschko versus peak Mike Tyson. So we got asked to do a video, Mike Tyson versus Wladimir Klitschko, primes. Who would win? Go on.
Huge fan of Tyson myself. Not just Tyson, but his style of fighter. Like, I really like someone that can bring something a bit different to the heavyweight division. I think particularly nowadays, when you're looking at it, you've got a lot of similar fighters, a lot of boring fights in that division. I think what Tyson really brought was something a bit different. Really aggressive type of fighter. A lot of speed. Someone who's, you know, really going at it, looking to knock people out, not just looking to keep opponents at bay and win on points, but really aggressively trying to take the wins. I know later on in his career, slightly went off course, but we're talking Tyson at his prime, and I think, you know, for me, one of the greats.
Yep, and against Klitschko?
I think he'd really hassle Klitschko. I think there hasn't been anything quite like that in the sort of recent years. I think Klitschko is very good at controlling fights, very good at keeping people at range. I think what Tyson would offer is something slightly different. I think he'd really get into Klitschko, really hassle him, hurry him, and make him uncomfortable. And I think for that reason, I'd have to go with Mike Tyson.
Interesting. I think I did a little bit of research when we got requested this, and the vast majority of people online think that Tyson would win in this matchup. Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I view it as a very 50-50 fight. I saw an interview with Eddie Chambers on this subject, who fought Klitschko, and I think Chambers made a very key point that it's all very well and good saying, oh, Mike would rush in, work the body, break his ribs, get his hands down, hit him in the face, but it's not that Klitschko has got an amazing ability to take punishment. It's that whilst he doesn't have an eye-catching defence, he seems to have an amazing way of breaking down a fight so that it doesn't ensue. A good example, I guess, being the Povetkin fight. You know, Povetkin's a good fighter. He wanted to get inside on Klitschko. Klitschko, by hook or by crook, and probably in that fight more by crook, was able to completely shut down the inside game, keep it at range, and manage to fight that way. Now, obviously, if the fight is going to be kept at range, with Wladimir Klitschko being 6'6", 6'7", Mike being 5'10", with Wladimir Klitschko's jab, you'd have to favour Klitschko with his amateur background. For Mike, it's going to very much be, can he get inside? Can he, you know, attack and land on Klitschko's chin? We do know Klitschko's had chin problems, as we've seen on 2 or 3 occasions throughout his career. However, I think what's very important is to remember that fighters peak at different points. Tyson was one of the rarities as a heavyweight who peaked very, very young. But in my opinion, Klitschko has come into his peak in his mid to late 30s, which is possibly more classic for a heavyweight. And as his peak in the last 3 or 4 years, he hasn't shown any chin problems. He's been in with the likes of Povetkin, David Hay, both of whom are really, really decent punchers. Both times his defence and his ability to take what they had to offer got him to the end of the 12. In fact, basically in the last 10 years, people haven't really caused Klitschko problems whatsoever. So I don't think it's just as simple as... I mean, do you think Michael just wade through his defence?
I think it is difficult with these hypothetical ones. It's not totally dissimilar to the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about Mayweather. What type of fighter would, hassle Mayweather, make him uncomfortable, beat him? And again, I don't know. I'm not saying Mike Tyson would come in and smash up Klitschko and knock him out. And I'm saying my instinct is, out of the two, I'd like Tyson, but it is very hypothetical. It's very unproven.
Yeah. I
like the style of fighter that Tyson offers, and I think you'd go into that fight wanting him to do that to Klitschko, because it wouldn't make for quite so much of an exciting fight to see Klitschko win something like that on points. Yeah. I mean, nowadays, who's the most sort of, who could we put a fight like that into action? Are we talking of David Hay?
Well, no, David Hay, I'd say he's more of an outside fighter, or an ambush type fighter. Inside of, who's the best inside fighter at heavyweight? I don't know. Derek Chisora would be one who certainly likes to come inside. He certainly doesn't have Mike's power, Mike's sort of speed. Chisora versus Klitschko. Alexander Povetkin, but they've already had that fight. It's hard. It is really hard. There isn't anyone in the heavyweight division with Mike's ability, Mike's power at the minute. I think Klitschko is just so good at shutting down fights, keeping it at range. I think the way to beat Klitschko these days is a Tyson Fury type fighter who's so large and so rangy you can take away his jab and make him have to come to you. That is all hypothetical as well. In terms of, I don't think there's anyone modern day you could say would replicate Mike Tyson. Heavyweights tend to be massive now. They don't tend to be shorter guys, but it's hard. I think if Klitschko is able to dominate the fight with his jab, clinch when it gets inside, then you see Klitschko winning the fight. I don't buy into this that Tyson would just blow him out in 30 seconds, which some people seem to think online, because I think Klitschko's so able to avoid punishment. But it's a really, really tough one. I mean, Mike at his best, looked like an absolute beast, completely unbeatable. And I guess the key question is Klitschko able to smother his work, smother his power punches, or is Tyson able to land clean? I'm not saying Klitschko will win, but we must remember Klitschko's got huge assets that Tyson doesn't have. The amateur background, possibly the technical ability, certainly the jab. Klitschko's his knockout ratio is almost as good as Tyson's. We're not talking about someone who's feather-fisted here whatsoever, so I don't see this one as an easy fight. I think if we talk primes, Klitschko, who fought, let's say, 2-3 years ago, versus an early Tyson, I say it really 50-50. I'm not saying Klitschko would win, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably be inclined to choose Klitschko.
Say Klitschko's best performance was so far.
The problem with
compared to Tyson's
the difficult with that. Okay, I think that's a real difficult question to answer. The reason being that Klitschko's best performances have been in fights where his performance has been very poor visually. Klitschko gave a masterclass, in my opinion, against Povetkin. He lied, cheated and stole his way to winning the fight. He held the whole time, he fought dirty the whole time. It was an appalling visual performance, an appalling spectacle. But to destroy a fighter like Alexander Povetkin and win every round, similar with David Hay. Yeah, Povetkin and David Hay are world level operators and Klitschko destroyed them. In terms of Mike Tyson, the problem is, in the times he fought marquee names, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, he lost. Now I know that's because those fights probably came too late in his career, but the times he was in those really big fights he actually lost. Whereas, who are the best people that Klitschko's fought? Povetkin, David Hay. He's managed to get the wins by whatever method.
I think, assuming that Mike Tyson and Klitschko happened, it would be probably a fight in the States, would you assume? Do you think he'd be able to control the judges in the same sort of way you're suggesting?
It's not the judges, it's the referee. It's about the refereeing. I don't buy into it that Klitschko, is fixing the fights whatsoever. Like, I think the referee would be a very, very important person in this fight, and it would very much dictate how it goes. I think it'd be a hugely relevant factor. But, let's not buy into this thing. I'm not saying Tyson wouldn't win. Tyson was a beast. But you read things online about Tyson would have got rid of him in 30 seconds. We're talking about an Olympic gold medalist who's 10 inches taller than him on one of the most dominant win streaks of all time, with probably the best sort
10
of
inches taller?
jab. Yeah, 5'10" versus 6'7". It's 9 inches taller.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Probably the most dominant jab, the most technical. I mean, Vladimir's getting his performance against Leopai. I appreciate that Leopai is nothing better than a bouncer, but his performance was absolutely dominant. The way he's fighting these days, it's hard to see anyone beating him. It's not that I'm down on Tyson. I appreciate that the Holyfield fight, the Lewis fight, even the Buster Douglas fight probably didn't represent Pete Tyson, but it's just not as easy as saying Tyson would walk through him, because Wladimir Klitschko is a master of smothering your work and stopping the fight. So I'd probably lean towards Klitschko in a very, very close fight.
Shame it can't happen, really, isn't it?
No, it will never happen. You could throw in
Vitali,
Klitschko, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, any of those names. I think, from my eyes, if you say who's the dominant heavyweight of the last 15 years, it's Wladimir, Vitali, Klitschko. Maybe the last 10 years, let's say, it's Wladimir and Vitali. Who's the most dominant heavyweight of the 10 years before that? It's Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. 10 years before that, you're probably looking at Mike Tyson. But anyway, that's my
interesting debate. I do like these sort of comparisons.
Absolutely.
Let's hear some more.
I'm Klitschko. Cheers.